Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're taking a look at the Sigma 56mm F1.4 versus the Sony F1.8 optical steady shot lens. Now, these two lenses have very similar focal lengths, but they offer different features and are also at different price points. We take a look at it in this video. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's That One Camera Guy back at again with the comparison video of these two lenses. So in this video, we're going to be comparing price points, image quality, video quality, what it looks like when you are putting the 56 on a full frame lens, you know, that kind of thing. I got some portrait examples I took a while back, so we're going to take a look at that in this video. So let's go ahead and jump into that right now. So right away, we're going into B&H Photos. The retail price of the 50mm F1.8 is $348 retail. And when you compare that to the Sigma 56, you're looking at $429. And retail price is $479. So there is a discount on this Sigma lens right now. Maybe that's could be a reason why you might be looking at this lens at the moment. Now, in terms of price differentials, it's what, about, you know, let's say over 100, depending on which one you get, maybe $120, $130 price difference between the two. So between that $479. So you might be wondering, you know, is spending an extra $130 retail worth it to go with the Sigma 56? Well, we're going to find that out in this video and if it makes sense for you. And at the end, I'll kind of wrap my thoughts at the very end to maybe help you decide. So let's go ahead and jump into that right now. So I got some images. I want to let you know right now, not the most scientific. I put the two lenses on two A6400 bodies, and I tried my best to get similar shots. So let's go ahead and jump into this right now. All right, the first one we're going to take a look at is this picture of a ladder. The left side is Sony, the right side Sigma. I'm going to try and keep it Sony, Sigma, Sony, Sigma. That's the goal. They're both wide open, 1.8, 1.4. If you take a look when we zoom in here, you're going to notice that the text on the Sigma is definitely sharper. It's more noticeable. The text on the left-hand side with the Sony is not as sharp. Now, in general, when you're looking at it far away, you're not really going to be able to tell too much. But we can notice that there is some green color cast, maybe chromatic aberration, whatever you want to call that stuff, affecting the image. The one on the right is a lot cleaner, a lot more controlled. But something to note, too, is that there's some weird bowing that's happening with the Sigma. I don't know if it's just my lens copy. There is lens variation issues, but I'm noticing it here. If you notice, it kind of stretches out at the top. So it's a little weird. It's kind of stretching out the subject. And so I was asking myself this question, like, how does it impact if you're doing portraits? Now, I just remembered I took portraits last year at Robert Schwab's photo event at around WPPI time. So let's go ahead and jump to that right now. As you know, Mr. Jason Bong right there. But the image example I want to compare to is this one right here. Now, this was taken with the A9, I believe. Yes, A9. And notice how the model, her head's more closer towards the top of the image. You'll notice it looks like it kind of stretches out a little bit more because of that. But her face looks a lot more normal when you lower it down. So the point I'm trying to draw here is that there is an effect that lens is going to have if you have your model positioned towards the top. Now, granted, I will let you know, it's more pronounced when you're shooting with full frame. Okay, it's more pronounced, I would say, when shooting with full frame, but if not, it's not as noticeable. All right, so this little kind of clip, this little hook here, Sony on the left and Sigma on the right. This is at f2.8 on both of them just to keep the depth of field situation a little bit more even. You're going to notice that there is more detail on this particular aspect of the object, and it just looks sharper. It seems to be more contrast. Now, granted, the exposure is not exactly the same for both, but I do like the look on the one on the right-hand side over the one on the left-hand side. Just want to point that out there for you. And then the rendering looks, you know, looks same. Looks pretty good on both. Not too worried about it. This next one here kind of screwed up. I kind of botched it up here. So just bear with me here, and let's take a look right now. So this is at 2.8, and the Sony and the Sigma is at 1.8. I didn't, now, if you notice here on this particular image, the one on the right-hand side is the Sigma at 1.8, and notice how it is fairly sharp in comparison to the Sony at 2.8, which should be sharper, you know, as you stop down and get sharper, but it is centrally sharper with the Sigma, wider open than the Sony. And then when we change this, so take a look, it's at 1.8 with the Sigma. Let me switch it over to 2.8. It gets even sharper. So this is 2.8 with the Sigma now versus 2.8 on the Sony on the left-hand side, and it's noticeably sharper. Again, it's one of those things where you nitpick, you'll notice it, but for the most part you won't. So I just want to let you know, but if you care about that kind of thing, it is sharper. Now let me point this image out here for you. Now this is just some plants and everything like that I'm taking a picture of. Sony on the left, Sigma on the right, both at 2.8. If you just looked at the generally, you wouldn't notice any significant difference between the two images. That's just something I want to stress to you, that they're both going to do just fine. As soon as you start zooming in there, you are going to notice these differences in the lens. All right, I'm not going to worry about this rock here. So let's go ahead and jump over to the picture of the sidewall here. All right, Sony. All right, here we go. This is not a perfect example, unfortunately. Wide open on the left, wide open on the right. There's some exposure issues, so it's a lot brighter with the Sigma at 1.4. But let's just go ahead and zoom in here and take a look at the center. Central-wise, they look pretty good. I would say the Sigma is noticeably sharper. When you zoom in 1-to-1, you can definitely tell that it is sharper. Let me just go ahead and do a little bit of... All right, so what I did was I brightened up the F1.8 a little bit here to match with the 1.4 to make it easier to see what's going on. But I can tell that the Sigma is sharper towards the central area here. This central area looks pretty good, like compared. But if you look at the Sony, it tends to kind of go out of sharpness. Now, I want to stress to you guys as well, my testing isn't perfect. These tests are, I'm not getting a perfect example, but I did set them at the same positioning for the tripod. Okay, so, they have the same positioning and everything like that. But if I'm looking at it, Sigma looks, in my eyes, significantly better than the Sony. But when you don't zoom in tight like this, it's not going to really matter at the end of the day. So, but if that matters to you, you're definitely going to notice it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to jump to at least 2.8 so we can see a difference at the 2.8 stage of the lens. You can see the vignetting on there as well when you're shooting wide open, so that's also present. All right, so let me try and see if I can find 2.8 here. All right, so now we're both at 2.8, Sony on the left, Sigma on the right. Let's see how they're looking. I'm looking at the detail. The Sigma is for sure sharper. I'm definitely noticing the sharpness on the Sigma. It's obvious there. It is there. All right, no doubt about it. There's even areas on the Sony, it's a bit blurry, not as sharp. But the Sigma overall in general is just a sharper lens. So I want to let you know about that. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and jump over into images a little bit here. So let me go ahead and pull up. All right, so here's some images I took at full frame with the A7R3. Similar example again, very sharp image. I caught that little bug right there, a little wasp, I think, at the same time. The vignetting is noticeable. You are going to catch it. Here it is at 1.4. Here it is at 5.6. You're going to notice it for sure. So depending on how you're shooting and what you're shooting, the vignette can affect your images. I would say it can be used in some environments, but not in all environments if it bothers you a lot. For me, I like the vignette in certain cases, but for you, it may not be the case. So what I did was I pulled some of those portrait photos I took back in 2019, and you can notice it here. This with the A9, images are sharp. They look good, but you can notice the vignettes on the image there. Here's one in portrait. Again, images look really good there. Here's another one here, but you can notice the vignette just at wide open at 1.4 with the full frame for those of you wondering. And again, here again, 1.4 full frame. You're going to notice that vignette. So I would say, is it a lens you want to use on full frame? Probably not. I probably wouldn't recommend using it on full frame. But on APS-C, if you take a look here, APS-C, images look good. Images look sharp. This is APS-C on the 6400. Wide open, looks good. Yeah, I mean, it's going to perform really good at 1.4 on an APS-C body, just like you would expect. So again, Sony 6400, 1.4, sharp lens. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gave you some guidance there. Let's jump into video next. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Sony 50mm. We're going to start with stabilization first. So the Sony 50mm has built-in stabilization in the lens. I'm using it on the 6400. Notice it's holding it pretty well. Very impressed with how well it's keeping it there. It's not perfect, okay, but it's good enough. It can get you. So let me go ahead and show you the contrast to that, which is the 56 with no stabilization, folks. No stabilization. So let's take a look here. The Sigma 56, handheld. A6400, no stabilization, handheld, f2.8, just like the other one, and you can definitely notice the shakiness here. This is more pronounced, and definitely will not be a good look. So there is a plus in the video aspect of things for that. Now let's go over autofocus here. This is the... Oh, sorry. Let me jump to the Sigma 56 with the Sony a6600 stabilized. So this is the Sigma on a stabilized body instead. And it's pretty good. Okay, so the a6600 is stabilized, and we're doing pretty good here. So much better experience overall here. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to autofocus. Not the best in the world kind of test, but here we go. Just going back and forth on these two objects here. And I really pushed it because the piece of tape is close. You can see the rolling shutter for sure. Tape is pretty close, so you can definitely see it's not too bad. We're at responsive and normal in terms of the autofocusing settings, but it's doing a decent job. And let's jump over to the Sigma 56 and see how that goes. I'm gonna jump into the middle because I moved things a little bit here. All right, there we go. Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of what I'm expecting. Again, it's a little more challenging because, it's having to focus so much closer to an object there, but the autofocus seems to be fairly competent in that particular department. So there you go, folks. Hopefully that helps kind of paint a picture, but let's go ahead and wrap the story up here. Again, Sigma 56, the benefits, it's a really sharp lens. You're going to get 1.4, so you're going to get 2/3 stop over the 1.8 on the Sony, but you can shoot at a slower shutter speed with this. It's not just for video. You can shoot at a slower shutter speed, so you can compensate for that. But in general, if you're looking for overall sharpness, the Sigma 56 is where it's at. So if that kind of thing is important to you in terms of overall sharpness, the Sigma 56 is hands down where you want to be at, because it just looks, it looks nicer if you're going for that. Now, if you don't have a stabilized camera body, like an A6000 or something like that, I always recommend going with this one instead, because it's a great starting 50mm lens. It is a bit pricey, but maybe you can get it cheaper somewhere else. But it's a great starting lens. It has stabilization, especially if your camera body doesn't have it, and it's going to get you by. Just go ahead and edit the photo, add a bit of sharpening, and you're going to get some really great compelling images anyway. And when you upload stuff into social media, no one's going to really be zooming in one-to-one to see if it's actually that sharp. I don't think at that stage it's going to matter a whole lot. But for the general folks out there, this is going to do it for you. Those of you that are a little bit more picky about things, you like to pixel peep more, go with the 56. And if you have a stabilized camera body, it makes it even better. And last but not least, I don't really recommend it so much for the full frame use. In most cases, it's very, based on what you saw in the examples, I wouldn't recommend it for that. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, folks. Let me know down below what you think. Maybe you own one or the other. Let me know your experience with it. Would love to know what you think about that. And that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other content, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.